Thank you. Hi guys, how are you? Do I get the slides somewhere? Otherwise I'll start without them. Anyway, how are you? How do we say hello in Bulgarian? I have no clue. Come on, go again. Drashti. Drashti? Sorry, I suck at that. I could say it in Greek. Okay, my slides are not coming up. Never mind, I'll start without it. So am I a futurist? I don't know if I'm a futurist. I don't think anyone can actually tell the future. The only thing I know is that for the next 30 minutes I might bore you with what I'm going to say. And until my slides come up, I have to come for a few little jokes to actually come up with a time. The problem with telling the future is that we always think that, oh, for some reason we'll be able to, as business, you don't want to die, basically, right? As a business, you want to know the future because you say, how the hell am I going to survive the next 10 years? How the hell am I going to make money and I'm going to put food on the table for my kids as an owner of the business? This is why people are so interested in the future. Future cannot be told. Future cannot be explained. There's no way you can explain the future. I mean, the person that said it best was actually Steve Jobs in his commencement talk in 2005. He said that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. There's no way you can actually know what's going to happen. When you're a kid, you can do these little draws when you have points, and you can actually start drawing whatever form it is. When you do that as a kid, you can actually draw because you already have the dots. In life, you don't have the dots. So do I get my slides or do I not get my slides? Not. Still not, right? Oh, my goodness. So I'll be going without them. Never mind. As soon as they come up, I'll keep on going. Anyway, what am I? So I'm not a futurist. I don't think I think I have a problem with people saying that they can't tell the future because that doesn't exist. It's impossible. It's impossible, sorry. What am I? I help companies understand how do they fit in business models. I help startups as well understand where are the major trends and how they're going. In terms of where do you fit and what kind of business model should I apply, what kind of processes and methodologies should I use to actually make my business thrive, which direction should I look at? Because when you start a business, and I know a lot of you guys here are startup entrepreneurs, you have this great idea because you've sensed there was a problem somewhere, but you don't know where to look. So this is what I do. I help companies go and see the right directions. I travel all around the world. I've been living in Japan, I lived in Southeast Asia, I've obviously lived here in Europe. I'm currently based in London. I was born in Switzerland, and as my last name tells you, I'm actually Greek. And I do a lot of work in emerging countries because I believe emerging countries is where the key is located. In emerging countries, you can actually understand, when you are a startup, you are like an emerging country. An emerging country, and you are here in an emerging country in Bulgaria, sorry to say that if you believe otherwise, but you have limited resources. Sorry, but Greece is also an emerging country now. We used to be a developed country, not anymore. You have limited resources, a limited market, and you have to, oh, my slides are up, and you have, I'll come to them in a minute, and you have to find ways within these limited resources to make something robust and to make something that works. And for a long time, making startups, because there was a lot of money, was possible because, oh, they moved by themselves, awesome. And you were able to, the West was able because they had unlimited resources. And the more we go, the more there's competition, there's more limited resources. So let me now use my slides since I'm there. So I'm going to skip a few ones. When people tell the future, they say stupid things like that. This telephone has too much shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. This device is of no value. That's Western Union more than 100 years ago. Another one. I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. That's Thomas Watson, the chairman of IBM. A smart guy, smarter than me, right? So that's why I'm saying there's no way to tell the future. Another way. There is no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home. Right? Ken Olson, chairman, founder of DEC, one of the major companies, almost disappeared, by the way, so it tells you. This is why people want to know the future, because they make those mistakes. And you know what? If we were actually believing in what people say, we would have flying cars right now, but we don't, and we would not have the internet. There's almost not a single, even science fiction book that came up with the internet in the past 100 years. But all of them were talking like in 2000, we would have flying cars. We don't have freaking flying cars. I mean, maybe you guys here it's my first time in Bulgaria, so you have to show me. So that's the Steve Jobs quote. I'm going to go quickly on it. So yeah, I travel around the world to actually try to see these connections and see the patterns, like my opponent said before. How do you understand innovation? Because when we talk about innovation, disruption, these are words, like buzzwords nowadays. Everybody uses these words. And you say, oh, I'm doing something innovative. What the hell is innovation? This is my job. This is what I try to do when I travel around the world. So first thing is the reach. The internet is becoming, and you can see there, sorry, it's not very clear for those who are far, but basically, I had a startup, right? My startup was around freaking here. There was almost no one going on the internet back then. Nowadays, basically, all the planet is almost connected. By 2020, we'll have 5 billion people connected to the internet. So that's the first thing. The reach is becoming huge. Again, what I said before, I had my slides, there's people have to act as an emerging country. There's more competition around you. There's more people around you. It used to be very limited. Yeah, I was the only guy with the internet. I could do a business that was great, and nobody would actually compete with me. Now everybody competes. Like people said at the very beginning here, our sponsor said, and thank you for saying that, what happens is that now everybody is part of this global economy. Facebook has more than 1 billion users. I know that this number is said so many times, but I don't, let it sink in for a little bit. Facebook has more than 1 billion users. Facebook has more than 1 billion users. I mean, we're talking about a scale that has never been reached in the history of mankind. Same thing with YouTube. It has more than 1 billion uniques, so more than 1 billion people see a video every month. That's also numbers that are, I'm just trying to make you understand the scale of these things. And this is why we're talking huge money when we hear WhatsApp is being bought by Facebook for 16 or 19 billion, depending on how you want to count. These are the numbers that are important. But the thing is, and this slide shows it to you, the thing what happens is that nowadays, most of it happens outside of the US. I chose these 4 properties. I chose, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Yahoo, just to show you that their business is mostly done outside. A very good analogy, who has seen, I'm not a big fan, X-Men? Anyone has seen X-Men already? Is it out in Bulgaria? Just out in London last week, I think. We've seen, I don't know, Captain America, whatever. These movies, they used to be, and we're talking only 10 years ago, most of the money was made in the US as a box office success. What happens now is that these movies made most of their money, up to 80%, outside of the US. So it's just an analogy, but it shows you how quickly the world has become much bigger and how important the rest of the world that we used to call it has become bigger. So the rest of the world, that includes you here in Bulgaria and me in London, by the way. Another way to see it, and this is this graph, is that the GDP, so the gross domestic product, it's a way of calculating the size of the economy. For so long, the West, I took here industrialized countries versus emerging countries. For so long, it was the West that was overwhelmingly important, and the rest was not. And if you look at the graph at some point around our era, right now, 2014, 2013, I mean, it switched. The GDP, so the size of the rest of the world is becoming more important than the size of the West, the industrialized nations. Computing as well. This is a graph that tells you, that shows mobile. Everybody talks about mobile, I know, now it's been years. I used to go to this big conference called Mobile World Congress. And when you go to Mobile World Congress, I had a startup, was 99 was my first time. And every year you got to come on stage and say, this is a year of mobile. Yeah, whatever. We waited for 12 years and nothing was happening. This is why my startup basically kind of failed, because nobody was actually doing anything with mobile. The thing is, right now, if you look at the big dot at the very top there, everything is about mobile. The size of this market is absolutely massive. There's a huge shift happening there. Actually, it's so huge that every time there's a shift like that, there are new players coming in. You saw the things I mentioned before, the deck, the guy who said that the fake futurist, he made a blunder by saying that. Every time there's a new era coming, so from mini computers to PCs, from PCs to web, from web to mobile, players disappear and others appear. This is in this shift, we're right now, right in the middle of it. And I'll come to a little bit more a bit later. But basically what is fun is that, and you know that as well, I'm kind of old enough to have had all these stuff there. I had a Walkman. Who had a Walkman? I mean, maybe you're two, some of you guys had. And I know, I'm sorry, it used to be the communist era, so maybe you didn't have the Sony Walkman, but you had some kind of copycat, I guess. So all these devices are now located in your pocket within one phone. This explains success. We're going from a world of 1.5 billion PCs to a world of 3 billion smartphones. But the point is, out of this, a billion people will have never had any experience about computing and about the internet before then having this. The first ever interaction they will have with the internet and with computing in general will be with a mobile device. So this shows you how important it is. And 75%, so a quarter of the population by 2017 will actually have a smartphone in their pocket. Imagine the shift. Imagine how big the shift is. Automation. Quickly. I lived in Japan. In Japan, when I was living there, you know, they have a problem with aging, the aging population. A lot of people, they're not making enough kids, basically, right? So a lot of other countries, they've chosen to actually ramp up immigration so they can actually have a lot of nurses and a lot of people that worked in healthcare to help the elderly in their society. Japan has been always very strict about immigration, so they replaced that immigration with robotics. And when I was living in Tokyo, you had the Tokyo government actually bought more than 20,000 exoskeletons. We're talking about something you put on your body that allows you to actually walk and transport and open doors. And they give that to the elderly. What I'm trying to say here is that robotic automation, so stuff that couldn't be done by us, and I took the elderly as an example, is more and more done by robots, by computing, by software. Just an ATM. It used to be that somebody would actually give you cash, you go to an ATM. Everybody knows that. But and more stuff is becoming like that. And we didn't have flying cars, but now we have actually self-driven cars. Google, Honda, Toyota, they make I visited Toyota, they make self-driven cars. So it's something that happens much faster than we think. The other thing that is happening, because all this stuff is stuff I've seen, for the moment I'm not making analysis, stuff I've seen. The other thing that I've seen is every year there's 15 million new books being published. Every year, there's 52 million new websites appearing on the internet. And the numbers keep growing. There's 48 billion hours on YouTube. And then the number of tweets, I'm not going to even say the numbers, become too big. Too many pictures, 400 billion pictures a year. More, can you read that number? But there's too many zeros for me. Facebook likes a year. Google searches a year. SMS, the numbers become completely crazy. Emails, you know, we say that emails is a problem. Look at the number of emails that are being exchanged per year. It's absolutely insane. We're reaching a problem. There's this science fiction author who said, the acceleration of information has reached a point where it's totally out of control and nobody can stop it. And actually, I think he has a point. Why do I say all this? I say all this because what I want to understand is I want to understand the dynamics behind that. Because these are the dynamics that impact the way you actually create a business, where you look at when you actually create a business, and how you should go with your business, and how we should go as a society helping these businesses. Technology disappears for two main reasons. One, it gets into the background. Do you actually look at your microwave oven or your oven every day? You're not like, wow, this is such a cool piece of technology. No, you're not. The only time I look at my microwave oven is every year, twice a year, when we have to change the clock. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to change the clock? And I lose like an hour trying to remember which button you have to press to change the clock. So that's one way of technology disappearing. It gets into the background. We don't see it anymore. And the other way, obviously, it gets disrupted. Again, I took the same example. All these devices are being disrupted. Nintendo is being hit very hard. There's the Nintendo NES here, being hit very hard because obviously people now play with their smartphones. All these devices got disrupted. But disruption, people a lot say disruption. Disruption is basically, it's a deflation game. Deflation means falling prices. I'm not going to bore you with economics and theories right now, so I'm just going to try to make it as simple as I can here. This is a graph. Sorry to make one graph. This, you can see, this is a Polaroid machine. Below is a digital camera, and of course then there's a smartphone. The first line here, Do this have a laser, by the way? Oh, awesome. This is technology that fades in the background. I forgot it existed. This is here one type of innovation. And as you can see, this is the price keeps falling. The price of components, the price of human capital, the price of resources keeps falling. So innovation becomes easier. So what happens is they don't innovate enough. So suddenly they're being taken over by a digital camera, which very quickly itself, and I'm not going to bore you more with that, is taken over by the smartphone, which is now basically your camera, right? What I'm trying to show you here is that these cycles are actually going much faster than they used to. The adoption technology goes faster and faster. I try to make it with these 3 boxes. It used to be that one piece of technology would survive for 20, 30, 40 years. Now the replacement rate is extremely fast. It's not like every day yet, and it's probably not going to be, but it's going much faster than it used to. The other thing that is another dynamic that is very important is on demand. I know that everybody here is not a startup. You probably use something like Amazon S3 or Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Cloud. I think they changed the name. I have to say Microsoft because they're here, and they're my clients as well. So you use this, it's on demand. When you had a startup in the 90s, now I feel like the old fart talking about old times. You had to buy everything, all the servers and everything. Nowadays, you don't have to do it anymore. You actually can on-demand capital and on-demand human resources as well. And I'll come to that in a minute. Adoption rates that I just mentioned. We're going to play a game. These are adoption rates in the US. This is the number of years that a new technology was adopted by more than a quarter, about 25% of Americans, right? So in 1870, what could it be that took 46 years to get adopted? Somebody has almost. Electricity. Telephone is a bit later, guys. Not in 1870. Second one, that took 35 years. I'm not going to do them all, but go ahead, something. You were onto something when you said that. Telephone, this time. Then, radio, television. You can guess what's the next one? Right? No? PC, then cell phone. Not the mobile phone, the cell phone in general, and then the web. It took 7 years for the web to be adopted, to have more than 25%. What I'm trying to show you here is that this rate of adoption is getting faster. We have technologies are getting faster. Now you have companies like WhatsApp. They have like billions of users, or Facebook. We said before, adoption gets very, very, very quick. So that's also why it explains that the dynamic of very rapid spurts of innovation happening one after the other. Sometimes it seems like, especially as a business, as a large corporation, and I work with large corporation, that you're trying to hold, and you're like, oh, you cannot actually have a grasp on these things because they go too fast, and it gets very hard. The other thing, go to quick on it, is it goes so fast that there's something that I call layered innovation or layered disruption. Is that you don't disrupt a product completely, you disrupt it from within. A very good example is, first thing is the smartphone itself, then you have the apps layer. So of course, the reason you love your smartphone is because of the apps. And the apps themselves are making a lot of money by using the first layer, which is the smartphone. But on top of that, now you have players like, for instance, WhatsApp, but more likely in Asia, WeChat, Weixin in China, Line, which is a Korean company, it's big in Japan, KakaoTalk, which is also a messaging app, which is very big in Korea. What they do, they actually, on top, they add another layer where they actually create e-commerce websites, they create new technologies within. So it goes so fast that layers of innovation pile on top of each other. And it becomes very hard to actually control it, especially if you're on the bottom layer. How does, and that's a question that a lot of mobile operators tell me. I work with mobile operators around the world, or carriers, depending on which country, which English you want to use. They come to me and say, we don't make any money. I mean, we are a data pipe. All the innovation comes from the smartphone, and then on top of the smartphone, it goes in apps, and then on top of apps, now it goes into apps like WhatsApp, etc. So this is this is the dynamic. It goes so fast that there's a layered adoption. So the number 20 billion WhatsApp messages per day. That's basically the size of the SMS. In less than 5 years, 50 people were able to disrupt the entire SMS industry. that's also the reality. 50 people. WhatsApp is now 50. They used to be 32. The 50 people that were able to completely disrupt the SMS industry. I have to go faster because with the beginning I lost some time. So, what's the impact of all this? It's great. The impact of society. Because it's one thing to say you want to create a business. What will be the impact in society on us as people living, and as families, and as society, as a community of people living together? The first is there's a crash of retail. I'm not going to go through all of them that I could, because we talk for hours, but the key ones: crash of retail. Retail is meaning you think when you buy something, you're most likely to buy it more and more from Amazon, basically. Some stuff from iTunes. A lot of old incumbents of companies that have been good at retail are disappearing very, very quickly. They're having a hard time making any profit. You have automation plus deflation, so falling prices, plus the adoption that people get hooked to new services very fast. That creates a crash of retail. The thing, and that's the most important for me, there's a crash of jobs. When you have automation, there's one stat here. 47% of jobs are likely to be automated within the next 20 years. So basically, half this group here that I see, your jobs will be gone. A robot will do it. You know what was the definition of a computer 50 years ago? It was a human. You were a computer. Now it's a machine. It's exactly what's going to happen. A lot of jobs will be replaced. All the jobs that have a process can be done by a computer. Or all the jobs can be divided in processes can be done by a computer. So basically, software is eating the world, like it's famously said, but it also means that there will be less jobs. And we add on top of that the crisis, come from Greece. These are the latest numbers I got from last month from the EU, 57% of youth unemployment. Not very good. Spain is the other one with 54. I don't know the numbers here. I haven't checked, to be very honest with you. But what I'm trying to say is that there are no jobs. And again, if you add to what I just said, WhatsApp is 50 people. They only needed 50 people to disrupt an industry. They don't need to hire 10,000. So how, as a society, will be able to create enough jobs for people to actually make a living? And what kind of jobs are the ones that will be interesting for your kids? Or even for you and for me, because I'm babbling here, it's great, but maybe I won't have a job in 20 years. There's also another crash, the middle class. The middle class was always the binding in a society. There are people very rich, poor people, and there's this middle class that can help bind the society. This middle class is also crashing in most of the countries because of the same reasons. Because the real wages have not been growing, so basically what they earn have not been growing in real numbers for the past 20 years, depending on some countries. US 40, Europe is less than that. And I say BS is bullshit. Sorry to use that, didn't want to put it on the slide, but bullshitting of jobs. So what we do is like, we don't know what kind of jobs to give you, so we create fake jobs. Sorry I use fake jobs, I know it's not nice, but basically we try to create jobs to actually sustain something that's not sustainable. Hence the public debt, etc. So, and the same size, you have this, of course, the rise up. It's not the 1% like they say in the United States. It's the 0.01%. So the uber rich is getting more rich. The capital actually creates more capital. The rise of luxury. I put that here because I need to say something about it a bit later. So this is very, very worrisome as well. And an emerging crash of growth as well, depending on some countries. But basically, there's no freaking growth. The growth that most of the Western world has been using as an instrument to create a better society is basically flat or disappearing, especially in the last 10 years. And I do not think that it will come back. I'm not a politician, so I don't need to tell you that, vote for me and I'll bring back growth. I don't think it actually will happen. And you have the crash of institutions. We used to trust the government, or you trust our country to actually make our life good. Maybe not in the communist era, so I'm sorry to say that, but we used to trust them. We don't trust them anymore. We say, whatever. I mean, you keep promising, but you don't deliver. Same thing for basically education. We used to say, my dad is 82, he came from Greece, very poor, came to Switzerland, make a decent living. The only thing he wanted me to go is university, because basically university was pretty sure that I would get a job and I would have a nice living. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, I mean, you have all these kids in Spain, you have all these kids even in the US, in France, they're getting like diplomas, they don't have a job. So why do you trust the institution? You don't trust the institution anymore because it cannot provide for you as a person. So I need to drink, otherwise I'll just be... So, no jobs, no growth, no institutions, these are no future, is that what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, you know, everybody's like, oh damn, the future, we're doomed, it's over. No, it's not over, but I'm trying now, I have to be more cheerful. I told you, Samir, that I would not be cheerful. This is where I'm going to be a bit more futuristic. There are stuff you can see, there are maps, again, the dots. I'm not going to give you where to go because I cannot know. But there are trends that are interesting that we should all look at as a society. Well, I believe in the concept of maps. This is a map of, I used to live in Tokyo, so I put it there, the Ginza line, which is one of the oldest subway line in Tokyo. A map is nothing more than a pure schematic, because actually, the real terrain is like that. If I put a draw line, this is the actual reality. You know, the red line that is straight is the map on the subway, and obviously the real map. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the future, I don't know if it goes up, down, left or right. But I cannot try to find the dots that kind of get you somewhere. That's why I like the concept of maps. So first, trust. These networks that I mentioned before, Facebook, for instance, Twitter, and you know what? I don't care if it's Facebook that's going to survive. What I'm trying to say is the networks, by definition. Maybe it's going to be something else tomorrow. But these networks have created, or are in the process of creating, a sense of openness, sense of sharing, sense of transparency. We started to trust. You know, I made friends. When I tell my dad that I make friends over the internet, he looks at me and says, "Are you crazy? You're going to get killed or something," right? We are in the process of understanding these dynamics. And of course, our kids will be born in a world that these dynamics already exist. They were like, "Oh, Dad, are you still surprised about that?" No, they will not. So this is one of the things that's going on. We know what I just said, the institutions can provide, so hard to get, you know, the government is not providing for jobs or actually for a better life. We know that, and we talk about it. So there's, you know, these processes are actually important. And we try to substitute for institutions. Okay, you know what? They cannot do anything for us. We will take the matter in our own hands. And we can do that because there are these tools, there are these communities existing. So we can actually do something here about. We can fight this protectionism. This is why you see all these stories about, you know, the other truth. I have someone from the European Union. I used to be a lobbyist myself, so I know how it works. You know, I used to be a lobbyist. I used to go to governments and try to say, you know, don't vote for that, vote for the other. If you look at TV shows like House of Cards, it's completely crazy, but this is what I used to do as a job. So I understand these dynamics. This dynamic is happening right now, but the dynamic is not lobbyists versus like a liberal party versus conservative versus Tories versus Labour. It's people that try to fight protectionism by themselves. It's startups, and we'll have someone from Uber coming later. They are fighting the system in every single country they get in, basically. So this is the kind of fight we're seeing. And we also learn to trust information differently. When I say trust information, of course, you know, we heard about the NSA, we heard about the spying, but what I'm trying to say here is that we start to know these things and we can to understand these dynamics and what should we not do, should we do, so we start understanding these systems and our kids will be much better than that. The jobs, there's no jobs, but at the same time, you have, I said, on-demand jobs, more and more. It's a rise of the freelancers. I'm a freelancer in a certain way, you know. The more and more freelancers, I know in emerging countries, because I have these I work a lot in emerging countries, whether it's South America, Southeast Asia, or Eastern Europe, I see a lot of people, you know, catering, like especially in software, developers, for instance, because that's something I will talk to you, developers developing for companies based in the US, for instance. And it's becoming more freelancers, on-demand jobs. This is why you see also the rise of micro-entrepreneurs, creating your own thing by yourself. The rise of startups, obviously, as well. So these networks allow you to do that. I mean, I work with people all around the world, not because I am all around the world, no, but because I'm able to leverage these systems and networks. And people learn to do that, and they create their own jobs. And this is where the solution will come from. Oops, yeah, if it will go. The other thing that is actually very interesting is information, how we use information. Information becomes a substitute for capital. Big words, make it simple. Do you know Kickstarter? Right. Do you know Kickstarter? Nobody answers. Or Indiegogo or something. Yeah, you know. What happens here is that you say, okay, you know what? I want to do this product. But this product, it used to be that I needed capital to make it start. I don't need that anymore. Because I'm not saying that VCs are not important, guys. Really, you still are, don't worry. But what I'm trying to say is that, oh, I need to create this. I can go on a platform, and again, whether it's Kickstarter or other platforms that will emerge, and I can say, you know, who's interested? Oh, there's market research. I have 10,000 people that want to buy it. How much do you want to pay for it? Can you pre-purchase? So even before actually creating the product, even before getting into production, you already have the capital. So information, this is just information. The internet allows you to know about a product. You can even do 3D printing. You could say, you know what, I can create one. I can show you. And then I can, on demand, create more if I have enough market and enough people interested. So this is, information becomes extremely important. The internet is, every product has always been about information. And suddenly, we can leverage that to actually create new ways of doing business, especially production. It's flashing that I have 58 seconds, so I'll go fast. The values. This is also very, very key. The generation of my parents were defined, depends on the country, by stuff. A house, a car, maybe vacation sometimes. It was a house, a car, the big TV, right? We all dreamt of that. Generations change now. We don't value ownership as much as we used to. We don't need to have stuff. What we value is experiences, and that's very important when you're a startup, even when you're a marketer. We value the access to an experience, not the stuff. The stuff, and you know what? Again, with these networks, you can now access experiences. Airbnb is that. You can access somebody's great loft in New York. I don't have the money to buy a loft in New York, but I can actually suddenly have the experience of a loft in New York. I can have the experience of, you know, having a Uber, so I have a limousine and my private chauffeur. I don't hire my private chauffeur and I don't need to buy a limousine, but I can have it for 1 hour. Same thing with cars. You know, the car, who has a car? Just raise your hands, please. Pretty much a lot of people, yeah. I live in London, I still have a car, it's kind of stupid, right? My car, I've actually made that calculation for my own car. My car sits 97% of the time in front of my house. Great. I don't use my car, it just sits there and its value is going down. But with tools of sharing, I didn't do it, but I could say, you know what, I'm gonna allow you to use my car. Like, it's an economy of margins. All that, it's falling prices, that I said before. All that was not efficient becomes efficient. You can actually do these kind of dynamics now. They were not possible before, because now I can have an app that tells me, oh, Paul's car is actually available for 1 hour tomorrow. Do you want it? Yeah, I'll have it. So imagine now, if you think a little bit, what is the impact on a car maker? I love that car, by the way. On car makers, because they will sell, they're already selling less cars. But if I don't need to buy a car because I can access somebody else's car, then if you're a car manufacturer, how the hell do you sell a car? Well, there are ways. I'm not going to go, but one of the ways, like, you make your car so robust that even if 20 people a day are using it, the car still really looks really good. Maybe cars nowadays, I don't know, because they know that the real number, mine was 97%, the real number is 82, on average, 82%. Your car seats 82% in a garage or in the street. So there's a displacement of middlemen. So the car maker, who is important now, is maybe Uber, BlaBlaCar, companies that actually allow people to transact directly, you know, peer-to-peer, not top-down, but peer-to-peer. Amazon is the same thing. You know, people say, you know, it's because suddenly you have new middlemen. You don't need to go to a big supermarket. You can buy on Amazon. All these are, what I'm trying to say here is that you have new middlemen that are being created. They all disappear, and I think the successful ones are the ones that allow, that encourage this idea of marketplaces and peer-to-peer economy and peer-to-peer exchange of information and goods and products. Oops. People start as well to be, and I'm sorry I'm running a little bit over time, I promise I'll finish in 3 minutes, because this is really key. people are starting to have, and this is something I've seen everywhere, whether when I was living in Manila, whether when I was living in Tokyo, whether when I visit and I go so often to Rio, I see more and more that, you know, if you were a kid and you had tastes, hobbies that were different, you were a geek maybe, or a nerd. It used to be, of course, maybe you were bullied. I was bullied a little bit myself when I was a kid. That's all right. But the thing is, back then, I know I'll sound like an old fart again, but back then, unless I had another kid in my classroom or in my school that had similar taste than me, I was pretty much alone, right? Right now, you can actually find people like you. I know it's on the internet, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. There exists. It validates you. You say, oh, you know what? I'm not on my own. I have other people. And that's not only for kids. That's only for you, for values. I don't know, all my family has been stricken by cancer. You know, there are groups of support for cancer. You find these communities that were not able to be found before. And that creates new type of values. I'm 38, so we are in this kind of transition period. But the younger generation, some people call them millennials and whatever, I don't care what the name is, but they have a tribal mentality, tribe. They find other people that think like them. This is how they define themselves. The tribes, tribal I said here on the slide. Nomadic. You still have a home, but now that you want to have this access of experiences that I mentioned before, I said Airbnb because it's an easy example, but there are others, you become nomadic. You can actually work, you know, there might not be a job waiting for you, given to you either by the government or big corporation, but you have your laptop, you can actually work from pretty much everywhere on this planet. I know it's a bit idealistic, but this is where we're going, and I think that's actually very strong. And singular. By singular, I say, you can, although you validate yourself with other people, you construct yourself on your own. You don't need a validation of a society to construct yourself. And these are the three keys that will define an entire generation to come. Tribal, nomad, and singular. This is something that will actually change. When I say it's important, because it will change how they perceive government institutions, whether it's government, whether it's education, whether it's big corporations. And in reaction to that, this is how government and big institutions and corporations have to understand if you want to hire someone, how do they think, what should I give them? They don't, again, they don't care about your big brand name. They will care maybe about an experience, about a goal, about a development of their soul in your company. Enough of that, because otherwise I'm going to switch a little flat. So basically the world is becoming flatter. Thomas Friedman said, I think it was 15 years ago, wrote this book, The World is Flat. It's great. I think it's becoming even flatter, more peer-to-peer. The world is efficienter. I know that doesn't exist. He says more efficient, but I just, look nice on the slide, so efficienter. And one that is a bit, I know people don't like it, the world is actually becoming more capitalist. And I want to explain that before people start killing me because I said capitalist. Oh, God. Because actually capitalism, a lot of people make this false distinction. More often than not, when we talk about capitalism, we talk about corporate capitalism. So the ownership of big companies and fighting the small guys and blah, blah, blah. Capitalism is just the efficiency. So I believe that actually with peer-to-peer networks and these economies are being created, we're becoming more capitalist. It doesn't mean that you have to be, I'm not here making a political statement, making a factual statement. You have to be very efficient at the use of on-demand work, on-demand capital. You can actually create products on your own because you found other people on the internet. So you can actually, this is actually extremely capitalistic in its way. And it's not like a lot of people think when they talk about the sharing economy that because their word is sharing, it's socialist or something. So what do I tell her? And I'll finish that because I thought there's no jobs. What do I tell her? What do you tell her? And I use her on purpose because 1 billion women will enter the workplace in the next 10 years. The amount of progress computers will make in the next few years is equal to the progress they have made since the very beginning. That's what I said before, automation. But you know what? She has that progress in her pocket. She'll have this. This is more powerful than the entire computing in 1945. This is more powerful than computing 5 years ago. she will have that in her pocket. She will be able to do so much things with computing. When I say this, is not the iPhone, right? In general. She will be able to do so much stuff that we're not even starting to think about it. She will be born in a world that allows these things that me cannot even fathom. That's the hope. Average is over. You cannot be average anymore. The jobs are disappearing. Where's the, yeah, hello. So I would empower lateral thinking. I think the people that will actually win in this society are people that can actually, I know I talk to my own thing to connect the dots, but people that can think in many ways, you know, think, oh, how do I create a product so I can hire the right people? I can, you know, thinking laterally. You know, Steve Jobs, the reason he was so successful is not because he was very smart. Obviously he was smarter than me, but it's because he was blending a lot of disciplines together. Liberal arts, not only computing. He was not only an engineer, because he was an engineer. I don't want anyone to tell me he was not. But not only an engineer. He read a lot. Philosophy. He went to live in India. He found, you know, cues all over the place. And this is how he became so smart. So encourage our lateral thinking, and the internet is there, and our emotional intelligence. That's the only thing that computers will not be able to replace, is emotions. They will be able to replicate, but not replace emotions. And emotional intelligence is something that also will be very, very powerful in the world that we're getting in. But you know what? These are, because a lot of people here are startup founders, these are the kind of qualities that you want in a founder in general, right? You want people that have lateral thinking and understand these type of dynamics. So you have to tell her that the world is a startup and that she is its founder. I'm Paul. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Woohoo!